What is up, YouTube? We are here again with Alex Carmenaty for our Week 7 NFL predictions. Looks like a really good week of football. We have some really exciting games this week, so let's get right into it. Hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so Alex, the first game I want to get into is 8:15 Thursday Night Football, Jaguars Saints. What do you got on this game?
Jason, look, Jacksonville's playing really good so far. Back-to-back wins. I mean, they've been on a roll. They really have played well. Actually, not just back-to-back, three straight, I believe now it is, with how good they're playing.
Yep.
So with them having the hot hand and them going to New Orleans, the Saints are struggling. Derek Carr still kind of banged up, and the Saints having a disappointing year so far. You got to go with Jacksonville because they've got the hot hand. And in three straight weeks, they put up more than 20 points. In two of the three games, they've scored 37.
Yeah.
And those wins by 37 to whatever it was against, both Houston and the Colts division foes.
Yeah.
So with Jacksonville playing really good football, Trevor Lawrence looking more comfortable, and this Jaguars defense really getting the ball rolling, you got to go with Jacksonville. Now, again, the Saints need a bounce-back win somehow this week. But against this Jags team, and Jacksonville's coming into their home stadium with this hot streak, you got to go with the Jaguars. And I think it's really a no-brainer. Honestly, it could be a blowout on Thursday Night Football, and we could have – look, maybe it's a blowout, maybe not. But if you see how well Jacksonville's playing, A, how can you not go with them? But B, they've put up 37, 25, and 37 in three straight weeks. How can they not score at least 25 points against this pretty injury-prone Saints team, on top of the fact that they were the favorites in their division, and Atlanta and Tampa Bay are better than them?
Yep. No, you're right. Look, again, the Saints are very hit or miss, just like Jacksonville. Both teams can be. The only thing that concerns me about Jacksonville in this game, and I don't know if you knew this, that Trevor Lawrence hurt his knee on Sunday. So,
well, how serious is the injury?
He's expected to play, but I think he's been limited in practice.
Well, look, I mean, sure, that's a concern. Don't get me wrong, but whether if Trevor Lawrence plays, which he should, like we think for the game on Thursday, if that's the case, then that shouldn't really make that big of a difference because the Jaguars can still get pressure to Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, whoever's healthy enough to play QB for the Saints. And on top of that, you look at the run game. You also look at the Jaguars defense, like I talked about already. That enough, whether Trevor Lawrence is 100% or not, that should take care of this game on Thursday versus the Saints.
Yeah, no, you're right. The one thing I will say is Kamara looks good for the Saints being back. Obviously they're without Jamal Williams again. But no, I just overall I think Trevor Lawrence, and it's not saying much because neither are, like, in my opinion, an elite quarterback. I do think Trevor Lawrence is better and looks better than Derek Carr so far this year. I don't know. I'm not like, crazy big on either team. I don't think either team is amazing.
Oh, look, Jason, I don't disagree with you, but I think when you look at how well Jacksonville's played the last three games, especially when they beat up on Buffalo in London to win that game narrowly, that tells you a lot. And
yes,
we all know how wide open the AFC South is this year. The Colts back and forth. Houston's been good. They've taken a couple steps back with some recent losses. Tennessee, we all know how bad they're going to be this year. They're not that great either to begin with so far in 2023. Jacksonville's the favorite. They've been the favorite since the beginning, but they haven't fully lived up to that expectation until the most recent three-game winning streak and two of the wins against Houston and Indy. So, again, whether they've started great or not, or they've been back and forth, Jacksonville's got the hot hand. And if they can build a four-game winning streak, which I think they will, it doesn't solidify their, their ability to win the division, but it makes things more of a reality. Where Jacksonville has won four straight, they're playing great, they're starting to build some chemistry on both sides of the ball. If they can get a four-game winning streak and continue this surge over time than we see Jacksonville to be the team we were supposed to see them to be,
Yes.
the AFC South champions.
Yeah, and when we include that 3-game winning streak, and I don't think you mentioned it as well, we can't forget about how they looked against the Bills as well.
Yeah.
That's another
Yeah.
one. So they've been good lately. So hopefully Trevor Lawrence's knee isn't too bad. Hopefully he's able to play tomorrow and come out strong for them. But yeah, I'd have to go Jacksonville, especially as long as Trevor Lawrence is healthy. If he's not, because I don't know who the backup is, I would go
Mhm.
Saints if he doesn't end up being healthy. But if he's
Well, look,
playing, I'm going Jacksonville.
if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play for whatever reason, then my narrative makes no sense.
Yeah.
If Trevor Lawrence does not play, then we have a whole different turn on what this game is going to look like. And yeah, New Orleans could have the edge.
Yeah.
At the same time, if Trevor Lawrence is 100% or not, if he still plays, they're going to win the game.
Yep. No, I agree. All right, though we are moving on to the 1 o'clock window. I think it's a game that doesn't need too much said, especially with how the team has been at times. We got Falcons Bucks. What do you think on this one?
Look, Jason, this game's going to be more intriguing than people think.
Really?
Because the Saints were supposed to be, again, the favorites of this wide open NFC South. They've been disappointing. Atlanta's been shockingly competitive. Tampa Bay was a mess last week, but overall, they've looked pretty good so far. This is going to be a big Week 7 game, A, if the Saints lose on Thursday, but B, as of right now, who's going to lead that division? You know? Who's going to have full grasp of momentum in that spot? Now, we look at this, both teams, Atlanta and Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Atlanta's looked great in many situations, and sure, they've been bad here too, but the Falcons have been more consistent. And Kyle Pitts is getting more action in the offense.
So is Drake London.
Yes. So if those guys get more of the ball like they have the past couple of weeks against a Buccaneers team that has struggled and the defense has not been as great as it has been during the Tom Brady era, if their offense can really get it going and their defense could get pressure to Baker Mayfield and shut things down, Atlanta walks out with the win. But Baker Mayfield's got to find a way to bounce back this week. Now, look, I've trashed Baker plenty of times, but Baker this year has looked pretty solid so far, except for that really bad loss versus Detroit. So Baker Mayfield needs to have a bounce-back game, and that's going to rely a lot on what Mike Evans does.
Yep.
So Baker and Mike Evans, that connection's going to have to go even further against a Falcons defense that is good, but also can be exposed by pretty good offensive receivers.
No, 100%.
So again, we look at both sides of this game. Jason, it's a bigger game than people think. And again, it's only Week 7. There's plenty of time to go this year. But let's say, things really come down to either Atlanta or Tampa Bay winning that division.
Yeah.
Whoever wins this game, A, has the edge. But if someone has to get a tiebreaker, you don't want to be the guy, the team having to go for the tiebreaker so desperately. You want to be the team that looks for the season sweep and clinches that potential division crown.
100% right. Look, I will say, I do think Baker will bounce back. I do. I think they're going to win this game. But you're right. It probably will be a lot closer than people expect. Like you said, the fact that London and Pitts are getting involved is huge.
I'll be honest with you, Jason. I'm going with Atlanta in this one.
Are you really?
And I'm taking the Falcons because of how well the offense has played recently. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, they're getting more involved. They're building chemistry with Desmond Ridder. Ridder's been a really solid quarterback so far this year. Maybe expected, maybe not, but he's been pretty good so far in 2023. Baker's coming off a mess, and the Buccaneers looked really bad versus Detroit at home. So I think when it comes to recent standards, and also keep in mind, the Falcons have won some pretty big games against a surprisingly contending team like Houston.
You're right. Yeah.
They've won some big games already this year. And yes, the Falcons have also looked bad as well. They did not play good versus Detroit. Ironically, Tampa and Atlanta both lost to the Lions 20-6. So, despite that being the case, I think when you look at both of these teams and how things have looked the past couple of weeks and also how more consistent the Falcons have been, my edge goes with Atlanta.
Yeah. I mean, again, look, the Bucs is a team that you also don't know how Baker could show up. He could, disappoint. Look, he's been decent.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd say, for the most part this season, he's looked good. Besides, obviously, the 2 losses, he's looked actually like an elite quarterback in the 3 games
No,
that they've won.
no. I mean, again, he has been. He's been very, very good in some cases, but like Baker always, he's either hit or miss.
Yes.
And recently, he's not been pretty.
Yes. The other thing is Baker actually joins the list of quarterbacks who also got hurt on Sunday, by the way. I don't know if you saw that as well.
I
So
didn't know that,
he
but
is expected to play.
and look, whether he's expected to play or not, they're going to need him to step up. If he's 100% or he's 75, whatever, he's got to step up.
No,
Now, at
100%.
the same time, sure, the injury might play a role, but like I said before, Mike Evans is going to be the guy that carries Baker over the edge.
Yeah.
And Mike Evans, like it was with Jameis Winston, like it is now with Baker, he's the guy that carries these, average or below average QBs. Tom Brady's a whole different story, obviously.
Yeah.
But we look at Jameis and Baker. The success that they've had on the offense has come thanks to Mike Evans. And Mike Evans is going to have a big game if Tampa's going to win. And Baker Mayfield's got to find a way to build that chemistry yet again in this Week 7 matchup.
Yeah, no. Look, I am still gonna stick with the Bucks, but again, these division games are always very hard to take. Anything could happen. Even if it's a bad team in the division, there's always a little more something more in that game when it's a division battle.
Yep.
So anything could happen. I am gonna take Bucks. Would not be surprised if the Falcons do win. We're moving on to a game that I think is probably gonna get the least amount of coverage out of all of the games. Because I genuinely just think this could be an absolute crap show game, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo out again because of his
Right.
back. It's
Right.
the Raiders versus the Bears. What do you got?
Justin Fields is injured. Jimmy Garoppolo is injured. I honestly cannot tell you who's going to be starting for the Bears. And when it comes to the Raiders, Aiden O'Connell was not awful against the Chargers.
No,
He had that big mistake, the pick to the Chargers. I think it was Asante Samuel Jr. who had the pick. But
I believe
that
so.
last-minute pick inside the 5-yard line, inside Los Angeles territory, he throws a slant towards the right, gets picked off. That was a tough break. Besides that, Aiden O'Connell played a pretty good game in his NFL debut. And we look at that, and I have more confidence with the Raiders QB situation than I do with Justin Fields being banged up. I mean, look, sure, the Bears lost the game because of the injury, but I also look at the fact that, I mean, who knows who's going to be starting? What?
I think it's his name, and he's the guy who came in for Fields. His name is
Right.
Tyson Bagent.
Tyson Bagent?
Bagent, yeah.
Oh, baguette. I think it said baguette. I mean, what is he, a fancy pastry now? I mean, look, I'm not sure, Jason, what I'm going to get from him. So
It wasn't pretty. It really wasn't when he came in.
it's ironic because the Bears had that great win versus Washington. Maybe they've got some winnable chances here. They don't play great versus Minnesota. Justin Fields dislocates his thumb. It looks even worse now because they lost the game. They got the baguette guy who now will be the quarterback, the fancy pastry.
Yeah.
And if we have a fancy pastry and Aiden O'Connell, I think it's fair to say that Aiden O'Connell is going to win the matchup, and which means that Las Vegas will win.
Yeah.
Now the Bears defense can stay in this game as much as possible, and honestly, both defenses aren't great.
No, not at all.
But both offenses, besides the Week 5 win for Chicago, also are not that good.
No.
So we could see either a low-scoring affair or somehow a 31-28 game like we saw between Chicago
it's hard to know what way this could go. I don't think there's an in the middle. I think it's I think no matter what, it's either a crappy, like a weird high-scoring game or a very crappy low-scoring game. I don't think there's a middle between that. I really don't.
You're right. And on top of that note, I'm going to leave with Vegas because I know what I've gotten from O'Connell.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm getting from Baguette, Bag, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Look, I'm 100% going Raiders on this one as well. Not too much to say. We've Bagent, and it was terrible. The Bears are terrible.
Chicago wins a game 2 hours after Dick Butkus dies, they win the game. And then the next week they come back home against a really bad Minnesota team. Justin Fields gets hurt and they lose.
Yeah.
That's the Bears in a nutshell.
Yes. I will certainly say this now, leaving off on the Bears. I will never be drafting Justin Fields in fantasy again. But
I'm sure that's been painful.
yes, it has. And it doesn't help that my backup is Dak Prescott.
Oh God.
Yeah. Okay, we move on to a game that a few weeks ago looks like it could have been really fun and interesting, but Deshaun Watson's banged up, Richardson's out now, so it's a little weird. We don't know what's going on. We got Browns Colts. What do you got?
The fact that the Cleveland Browns upset and ruined the undefeated season for the San Francisco 49ers
With a backup QB?
with a backup quarterback gives me some promise, but not complete certainty.
Yeah.
Now, here's the deal. Guaranteed Richardson is out and the Colts lost to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's just the better team. But Gardner Minshew's not terrible. Now, Gardner Minshew, oh my goodness, excuse me, Gardner Minshew threw 3 picks last week and was not great. But I know that I'm getting more out of Gardner Minshew than P.J. Walker.
Yes.
And P.J. Walker had 2 interceptions, even though they won the game versus San Francisco. So the big deal here is going to be defense. Yeah. Can the Browns defense hold down Gardner Minshew again? And can the running game be competent enough to upset the Colts? If that happens, then Cleveland wins this game. But if P.J. Walker struggles again and the Browns defense, for whatever reason, can't contain the run by the Colts, the offense by the Colts, and if Gardner Minshew plays good, then Indy's going to win this game. So this is a game that, again, Jason, could go either way. But based off what I saw last week, even though P.J. Walker was awful, I'm going to go with the Browns because of their defense. And if they're able to pressure Minshew, if Minshew struggles, if the Colts offense looks like a mess because of how bad he's playing, Cleveland's going to win the game.
Yeah.
That seems a little more realistic from what I've seen this year than Gardner Minshew throwing 2 touchdowns and 1 pick or 3 touchdowns and no picks against any team, Cleveland or whoever they would play.
No, 100%. Look, I just think right now they're still also trying to get Jonathan Taylor back into the mix a little bit. That's a little weird right there. You just also, again, don't know what you're going to get from Minshew.
Yep.
I do think Watson will be back this week. That's from what I'm hearing. I should have mentioned that earlier when I discussed the backup situation. That's my bad.
So if Watson's playing this week, then I think that definitely puts Cleveland over the edge, no question about it, if he's playing. But honestly, Jason, it's still not a guarantee because P.J. Walker is a lot different than Deshaun Watson, obviously. So if it's Watson on top of the Browns defense, sure, Cleveland wins no problem. But if it's P.J. Walker starting for a second straight game, and you've got the Colts who are also hit or miss, same thing with Minshew, then that's where we get in this toss-up. And again, I slightly leans towards Cleveland, but I'm not fully confident.
Okay, so I will tell you now, this is what I just read. Deshaun Watson said Wednesday that he can't put a timeline on his return. Watson missed the past 2 games. It was held out of practice Wednesday, but he said it's up in the air whether he'll be able to play Sunday.
So again, that means we don't know. So as of right now, you assume P.J. Walker starts.
Yes.
And if you assume P.J. Walker starts, you slightly lean towards Cleveland.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think obviously right now that look, the Colts have looked good, but they're in a very weird place. They lost a young quarterback. They're a quarterback who's going to be the guy for the future if he could stay healthy, which so far he's off to a very scary start with staying healthy. He's been a mess with health. But look, I just overall think with Jerome Ford, Elijah Moore over there, Amari Cooper, I just think the Browns and their defense has been pretty good actually as well. Yeah, I just think I think they're too much for Gardner Minshew and that Colts team.
Well, I mean, again, like I said before, from what we've seen this year, it's more realistic for Minshew to throw more picks than touchdowns than throw more touchdowns than picks.
Yes, no, 100%. The bet, and before we move on, the best chance of the Colts winning is they finally get that first breakout game of the season for Jonathan Taylor. That's what they
If
need.
if he can do that versus the very good Browns defense.
Yes. All right, we are moving on to a game where it's two disappointing teams, but they actually tend to always have very fun games. We got the Commanders Giants division game. What do you got here?
Honestly, we're either going to see the Giants somehow pull off a miracle win. They'll be down 20 points and come back to win by 3, or we're going to see the Commanders play good.
Yeah.
And we could see the Commanders win by 10, 15, 20 points. Jason, I just don't know because the Commanders have been a train wreck, but the Giants are an absolute disaster and much worse.
Yeah.
And I'll say this much. With how bad Buffalo's been and with how back and forth they've been, the fact that the Giants made that a 5-point game and led the majority of that game into the fourth quarter, I mean, that's shocking and that's good for Big Blue, but they still couldn't beat Buffalo. And on top of that, if we look at how bad the offensive line is, we look at how bad this offense is, period, and with how much of a mess this defense is for the Giants, if Sam Howell goes off, it's over.
Oh,
now,
the
again,
defense is terrible too.
Yes. But again, I just said if Sam Howell goes off.
Yes, that's a big if. Yes, you're right.
And if Sam Howell does not play well, I think Washington could still win, but they could win like Buffalo won on Sunday Night Football.
Yes.
So honestly, I'm going with the Commanders. I'm going to lean with them. And I lean with them because they're better than the Giants. The Giants are an absolute disaster. And Brian Daboll, I mean, look, as a Packers fan, seeing Matt LaFleur call plays is the worst thing I've ever seen. Brian Daboll went from the top of the crop or up there for coaches and play calling to the freaking garbage pail, down all the way at the bottom where the garbage and sewage leaks out of the bag. That's how bad he's been as a coach and as a play caller this year.
No, you're right.
So based on that alone, and based off what I saw last week, and based off the Commanders back and forth and barely holding on to leads, give me Washington. Yeah. Barely.
I'm going to take Washington as much as it pains me as a Giants fan. I think I'm officially going to go in with the mindset of I'm going to pick whoever's playing the Giants, and I can't be, I can't be disappointed. If I keep expecting the Giants to lose, I won't be disappointed.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, it's sad. And honestly, even with how bad they're playing right now, and even how bad they've been the past couple of weeks especially, Tyrod Taylor looks a lot better than Daniel Jones.
Yeah, no, 100%. And honestly, that is something, if that continues, if Jones misses this week and Tyrod Taylor looks great again, I wonder if that's something the Giants take into consideration for a little while, for the remainder of the season, not long term. I'm just saying for a little while.
I'll say this. If Tyrod Taylor throws maybe 1-2 touchdowns, maybe he throws a pick here and there. Yeah. If he makes this a 7-point game and not the crummy 5-point game we saw, if it's, let's say, a 25-18 or a, 27-20, if it's somewhat, high scoring and it's close down to the wire, if Tyrod Taylor leads a pretty good offense, even in a loss, I'd be more satisfied with that. Yes. I would also be satisfied with starting him, not just the rest of the year, but I think in general, potentially over Daniel Jones. Look, I don't know where you go with Daniel Jones if he continues to be awful.
The one thing I would say is the Daniel Jones experiment has been a massive failure.
Well, look, he had one good year last year, and he was great. And at the time, he deserved the money. Made sense to pay him. Okay, fine. But you can't have this. And now the Giants are in this binding contract where they got to pay the guy. No one's going to trade for this. And at the same time, look, I mean, you're in a catch-22 situation. So, honestly.
And Alex, one thing I will say is because of his contract situation, and this is why if he does play more this year, he needs to wake up because he has screwed the Giants this year because now not only are they paying him, but it put them in a situation where they were not able to sign Barkley long term.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Barkley, if things don't work out well this year, he won't be happy as well, and he might have to move on. Who knows? But point is this: if Tyrod Taylor plays better this year, And let's say he starts the rest of the campaign, whether Jones is healthy or not. Let's say he plays well. Let's say he starts. Let's say he has a good season overall.
Yeah.
You take that into consideration, and whether you're stuck paying Daniel Jones or not, you play Tyrod Taylor over Daniel Jones.
Yes.
No question about it.
No, and to be honest, if Tyrod Taylor really does start to wake up and look like a good quarterback, that that does save you a lot of money too in the future.
Oh,
If
yeah.
he is the guy you want to make your guy, and look, as crazy as that is to say, he is a veteran guy. And look, he's never been a terrible quarterback. He's
Oh,
just
no,
a guy
no.
that has never gotten crazy opportunities. I know he's been a starter before, I believe, but
Mhm.
it's been a while since he's gotten a chance, so he's got to be hungry and ready to freaking go out there.
Look, he's a journeyman quarterback who's bounced around, sure. But he's also stood out in pretty big moments. And when
Yes.
he has stood out, he's been solid. And with this mess of a Giants team, he's looking pretty good right now. So he can't complain. And the Giants will take whatever they can right now.
No, 100%. All right, we're moving into a game that I think is actually going to be a lot of fun to watch. Another 1 o'clock window game. We got Lions Ravens. What do you got on this one?
That's a big good one, Jay. And look, whether Montgomery plays or not, Detroit's been hot. They're solid. They're so good.
Yeah.
They are a really good team. And Baltimore's a good team too, and they played great versus Tennessee. But the Lions are better. The Lions overall are a better team, and they seem more consistent, and not just consistent. I mean, I compare both teams, injuries aside, I look at both teams, and the Lions have more of a structure, especially on the offense.
Yeah.
And sure, Baltimore's a defensive team, all of that, but I'll take Detroit's defense with their offense over Baltimore any day of the week.
Yep.
So give me Detroit.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually go Detroit in this one as well. I just think, they do look so freaking good. Goff looks great. David Montgomery is expected to miss time, so he, with the rib injury, so it does not sound like Montgomery will be playing this week. One of my many guys that won't be playing in the lineup this week in fantasy football for me. You know, Brown looks good. It sounds like they got Gibbs back, which is perfect because with Montgomery out, this is the opportunity for Gibbs to maybe score that first touchdown and have his breakout game because he needs
Absolutely.
that to build up his confidence. You get Josh Reynolds involved, Laporta. I just overall, I think that offense is much better. The defense is young, but it's good. Um, in my opinion, look, Lamar's good, but you got Bateman, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Odell. I'm just not too big on that offense. I really am not.
Well, again, we talk about injuries. Baltimore's been injury plagued on the offense this year. Yeah. And that's why Detroit's going to win this game. Now, I guarantee Montgomery's hurt, but like you said before, this is the chance for Jahmyr Gibbs to stand out. And if Montgomery's out for a period of time, you need someone to fill it in. If they bring in the rookie, he does well. They fill him in, no problems, no questions asked. Detroit still plays well. Then Detroit's going to win games. And that includes this Sunday versus Baltimore. Yeah. And on top of that, again, Baltimore's offense has been The injuries have really hurt. J.K. Dobbins being out for the season hurts them too. And Gus Edwards is solid, but he's not going to put up David Montgomery or J.K. Dobbins numbers.
No,
Jahmyr Gibbs, and again, we'll see what Jahmyr Gibbs does, but I've got more confidence in him than I do with a split backfield of Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. Yep. So again, it's really the offense that's going to make or break, and Detroit is galaxies beyond better offensively.
No, 100%. Look, I'm going to say it now. I know the Ravens have a pretty solid defense, but I feel like however long David Montgomery is out, you need to, during this time, get Gibbs his first touchdown. Build the rookie's confidence. The fact that they haven't made sure to get him that first touchdown already does shock me a little bit.
Well, look, keep in mind, Montgomery's been the guy. So if he's the guy, and if it ain't broke, then don't fix it.
No, you're right.
Part of that. But on a 3rd and goal or a 3rd down stand or whatever, yeah, maybe throw him in once in a while. Okay, I can see that. Maybe that's where the point comes why he's not played as well or played as much to begin with. But
Now he's got the chance. And
Yeah.
let's see if this rookie running back who was drafted 12th overall, they saw him so far for a reason. If he plays well, he does good, he impresses, he fills up that spot for Montgomery, then this whole, conversation is meaningless because Detroit still has a strong offense, whether Montgomery or Gibbs is the main back.
No, 100%. I agree. But yeah, no matter what, I think we're about going Lions this week. I
Yeah.
just don't see it in Baltimore.
Yeah.
This is the last 1 o'clock game, and this is a pretty easy one to predict. We're not even gonna have to talk probably more than 2 minutes on this one because I think it's just gonna be an absolute crap show. We got Bills Patriots. What do you got?
Look, Jason, we had some pretty bad matchups, but bad matchups that could be somewhat entertaining. This is going to be a disaster. And if Buffalo doesn't win this game, then Buffalo has a serious problem.
Yes.
Mac Jones has been horrific.
Yeah.
Ronald McDonald, Mickey Mouse, and Donald Duck can do a better job combined than Mac Jones as the quarterback this year for the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute disaster. And it's kind of ironic because the first 2 games of the year, solid, competitive.
We were raving about how
losses.
he looked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fine, sure, great. And it was true. He played really good those first weeks. But they barely beat the Jets. Barely.
Yeah.
And then after that, the Dallas game was where everything's going downhill. And we look at the past couple matchups. I mean, at one point they were being outscored 72-3. Bill Belichick's your coach. You're an NFL team. How are you getting outscored 72-3 in 2 weeks in a row? And one of them you lose 34-0 at home.
Yeah.
How does that happen? I don't know.
It should never.
So this is a game again where Josh Allen has to wake up, bounce back, because Josh Allen is either really good or painful to watch.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen has no excuse to bounce back again and be really good against this horrific Patriots team. So
Yes.
you got to go with Buffalo, and I think my 2 minutes are up.
Yeah. Look, again, not much to say. Patriots suck. I think they need to figure out a way to move on from Mac Jones. The kid is terrible. I don't see any potential in him. There's no future. If you want to eventually get back to winning, he's not the guy you want for the next 15 to 20 years. Your team will be shambles for the entire length of his career if you decide to keep him going forward. And I already see signs of them ready to move on because they repeatedly have been benching him. But
well, look, honestly, if he starts past November 5th or 6th, or if he's still starting before Thanksgiving, that's a problem.
Yeah, no, you're right. But overall, nothing impressive about this Patriots team. It's just been pathetic. I wonder what Zeke's thinking right now. Left the Cowboys and went there. I feel like there are a few other options he could have went to as well at one point, supposedly. I know obviously they ended up getting DeAndre Swift, but even the Eagles were an option from what I heard. And he decided to go to the Patriots. So look, I just think Buffalo's just gonna crap on them. I think Buffalo easily breaks 40 points in this game. I just think it's gonna be just terrible. I really do. I think Diggs could have like 2 to 3 touchdowns in this game as well. So we'll see. Well, hopefully that might be a game I don't want to see actually. But and we got 5 minutes by the way before we had to reset the call. We are officially actually 4 minutes. We are officially moving into the 4:05 window. We got the Cardinals Seahawks. What do you got?
Arizona either looks competitive or awful. And they were bad last week versus the Rams. I know what I'm getting from Seattle. They're a strong team, solid team. Even though they lost narrowly to Cincinnati, they're still a playoff team. Jason.
Yeah.
We've got 3 minutes or whatever. I don't got much to say. Give me Geno, give me Seattle. They'll beat Arizona. And maybe they make it competitive. But at the end of the day, whether it's by 5 points or more than 10 points or double digits, Seattle wins.
Yeah. I'm going Seattle in this one as well. Metcalf, Lockett, Kenneth Walker, Geno, they all look good. The defense looks solid as well. the defense was not the reason they lost that game to the Bengals. That was actually just a lot of an offensive problem in that game, which you don't see too often from them.
Mhm.
For Arizona, look, they've actually been somewhat enjoyable to watch, but
Mhm.
I do not see them standing a chance against the Seahawks, especially with no James Conner.
Yeah.
You have to rely on Zach Ertz, Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, and I just don't see that going very well against this Seahawks team. I would
Well,
have been,
again,
sorry, what was,
look, I mean, it just Josh Dobbs has been good. Offense is solid. Defense can't keep them in games.
yeah.
Defense gets tired following the first half. And honestly, when the offense looks good but not great, you have this repetitive pattern of losing by more than 15, 20 points.
No, yeah, 100%. I agree. So yeah, I just overall I think Seahawks are significantly better. I do wonder. I mean, I know the Seahawks lost last week, but I do wonder if the Seahawks could start a little run and maybe get a little competitive towards the Niners. I mean, look, it depends on obviously how they play the Niners at the end. Like when I think they still have both their games left with them, right? I don't think
Yeah.
they played them yet. So yeah, that's gonna really be big. I mean, look, the Niners could start a collapse. We'll get into that later. They're dealing with a lot of problems right now, the Niners to worry about. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't see how anybody could go Seahawks in this game. Okay, so the next game I want to get into is the second 405 game. We got Steelers Rams. What do you got on this one, Alex?
This game's going to be intriguing. I'm going to go with LA based on what I saw last week. But, Pittsburgh's played some competitive games, and there's been games where they've not been really good at all. Najee Harris has been horrific. But we look at them again, overall, they've not been bad. They've won games, they've lost some bad games. They've been not consistent, but when they're good, they're good. And Kenny Pickett's banged up, sure, and what have you. But this Steelers defense, like I said before, again, inconsistent. They've been good at times and they've been all right. Based off that, and based off what I've seen with Cooper Kupp back, with Puka Nacua, with the Rams offense, and the Rams defense getting pressure to the quarterback, if they do all that again, which I think they will versus Pittsburgh,
Yep.
give me LA.
Yeah. I'm gonna take the Rams as well with, Puka, Cooper Kupp, Tutu Atwell, obviously, what's his name? Kyron Williams is out for a few games. Actually, he's gonna miss some time. But overall, I just think they're a much better team. Kenny Pickett still has failed to show me something elite throughout his career.
Yeah.
I just, I'm not too big on him, to be totally honest. They do have Pat Frymouth back, Deontay Johnson, but their big guys haven't stepped up even while they're out. Pickens has been good. He's shown up at times. He's had some big moments, but he hasn't been like elite like he should be without anybody else there playing. Najee Harris has been an utter disappointment this year.
Mm-hmm.
Dude is just not doing anything at all. So overall, in LA, I just think that Rams team is significantly better than the Steelers. The fact that the Steelers were even briefly first in that division this year blows my mind because I don't think that anywhere near a first place caliber team.
Not at all. And again, look, Pickett's been not great. Najee Harris, horrible. We talked about that. But the injuries have really killed Pittsburgh, and on both sides of the ball.
Yes.
Most importantly, the offense. And when a young quarterback who's not just hurt himself, but when some of his key pieces, receivers, tight ends, what have you, when they're consistently in and out of the lineup, that just flusters his confidence. So Pittsburgh has just not been great consistently. Like I said before, good at times, really bad in other times. So based on that, you got to give me the Rams. And even though the Rams lost to Philadelphia and they've got some losses here and there, the offense has been really good. And the way they kicked off the year versus Seattle, I think that tells you a lot with how well the offense has been doing all season long.
Oh, 100%.
So when they're putting up touchdowns, when they're winning games, when they're, even almost blowing leads, but still winning a game thanks to Puka Nacua, they're playing well. The Rams have a really good offense. And when their defense has been solid, the defense has been solid.
Yep.
So you got to give me, the Rams in this one.
And for Pittsburgh, like I said before, the reason why they were a first place team at one point is because Baltimore had injuries. Cincinnati wasn't great. Cleveland also was hit or miss.
Yeah.
So you look at those stats alone, and Pittsburgh for sure is not worthy enough to be a first place team. But now that Cincy's starting to get things going and Baltimore is consistently in the mix and Cleveland's been kind of back and forth, but they're coming off the big win versus Frisco, Pittsburgh has no right nor any chance to even be back in first place, which I think they will never see first place again for the rest of this season. So look at all those things, put them all together. Rams beat Pittsburgh. That's all she wrote.
Completely agree. We're moving on to the 425 window, one of our final 4 games to cover. This is going to be a shootout of the week. I am so excited for this because every time these teams play, it is such an exciting game, especially with Austin Eckler back now. We got the Chargers versus Travis Kelce's Chiefs, along with Taylor Swift. Let's get into it. What do you got on this one?
Well, funny enough, Taylor Swift has not been with Travis Kelce recently, so I'm not sure what that means. Maybe they're starting to break up, or Taylor might have a new song with Travis now as the ex. I don't know, but
what I do know, heartbreak coming out.
That's right. So, but what I do know is that this game is going to be close. Now, the Chargers were not great on Monday Night Football versus Dallas. Justin Herbert's not been great. He looked really bad versus the Cowboys, but the run game was good enough to make it, very competitive.
Yes.
On top of the fact, the other side, Kansas City beat Denver, won by double digits, but they weren't the best offensively either on Thursday Night Football. So honestly, Jason, we could see a shootout, or we could see a really close game where both teams, score less than 20 points. So I'm not sure what we're gonna get. But again, Kansas City's been hit or miss.
Yeah.
They've won more games than lost, which is important. But in a good amount of their wins, they've scored less than 20 points. And I think part of it has been, sort of the Super Bowl hangover. But part of it also is that, besides Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco, there's not much offensive talent for this Chiefs team.
No.
Outside of Patrick Mahomes, of course.
And you're right. And the one thing, and I'm sorry to cut you off, one thing about, the offensive talent is when you also have so many options to throw to. I believe there's been multiple games where they've had like 10 different people who have gotten a reception.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard for people to get warmed up and into the game. So that also affects those guys too. So, I'm just not big on having that many targets to throw to.
Well, look. It's one thing to have that many targets, but it's not good when you don't have consistent targets outside of Travis Kelce. Pacheco's your running back. He'll do his own thing. That's fine. But outside of Kelce, a tight end who's phenomenal, when you don't have a consistent WR1, that's a problem. And, when the Chiefs kind of go back and forth with that, that shows their weaknesses. Kadarius Toney's been hit or miss. Valdez-Scantlin's been in and out of the lineup. They've got some other pieces that haven't been consistently there. Yeah. So, again, this KC team is still good. They're dominant. They're competitive. I think they're going to win. I think they'll beat the Chargers because Justin Herbert's been a mess, and last week was not good at all. So, I think even when you look at KC's offensive woes, it's going to be enough to get them over the edge against L.A. Yes. And, again, Justin Herbert did not look good. Chargers team is either really good or really bad. And if their defense struggles again, Pat Mahomes, whether he scores 20 points or not, 40 points or not, he will play very good enough to win KC the game.
No, 100%. I'm going to go KC in this game as well. The one thing is for a team that's really struggling to get their, receivers going, they don't have an elite receiver. I am very disappointed and shocked about how little they have used Jerick McKinnon, who is an amazing guy for those short little passes. He's quick. He could pick up a ton of yards for you. That's a guy that if, with their situation, you got Watson, you got Kadarius Toney, who's, like you said, hit or miss. Scantlin, besides, I think that offense would look a lot better if they use Jerick McKinnon more. I don't like the situation with the 3 running backs. I'm sorry. Yeah. I do not think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a good running back. I really don't. So that is the one negative about them. The Chargers, it just sucks because their offense is great. usually. Last week, not so much, but usually it's awesome, and it's the defense that kills them. So I
Mm-hmm.
just don't see that defense standing up against this Chiefs offense. And if, Chris Jones gets to, uh, Justin Herbert a lot, it could be an ugly night for Herbert. It
Oh
really
yeah.
could be.
Well, look, I mean, again, Justin Herbert played a horrible game versus Dallas. If that bleeds into this game, not going to be pretty at all for LA. And
No.
Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are remarkable linebackers for the Chargers, but they've only had one really good game this year against the injury-riddled Las Vegas Raiders.
Yep. No.
And
100%.
you look at every other game, and it's not been pretty.
Yeah.
And now you got to play Kansas City in a big divisional matchup where Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes and Kelsey's Kelsey. And, despite the offensive woes for KC, if Mahomes and Kelsey get going and Pacheco has a great run game like he always does, it's over.
Yeah. No. 100%. All right, we are moving into the last 425 game, and I'm sure you're sitting here saying, please, please, please let us win. We got Packers versus Broncos, Alex. What do you want to say on this one?
Jason, give me a minute. Let me just take a breather. Let me calm down for a minute. Green Bay had the greatest week last week. You want to know why?
They didn't
Because they had a bye.
Yeah.
They had the best week all week long last week. They didn't play. It was phenomenal. Jordan Love is starting to get on my nerves, and here's why. I look at the game versus the Raiders. The first two picks were bad enough.
Yeah.
That last pick with 44 seconds left in the game, why are you bombing it to the end zone on 3rd and 10 inside, the 20, 30-yard line or whatever it is, inside Vegas territory? You don't have to do that.
And the one thing is, even if you get that, you're giving them time on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right.
But the point is, kill more clock, have some slants over the middle, and A.J. Dillon was playing great. Use him, push it with him in the end zone, and that's how you win the game. Yep. It's not that hard. But you are pushing Jordan Love for no reason. And on top of that, Jordan Love just looked horrific. I mean, the amount of missed throws, the amount of overthrown balls, the amount of incompletions, the picks on top of it. Jordan Love looked really good versus Chicago, versus New Orleans, and the comeback was solid versus Atlanta despite losing the game.
Yep.
But against Detroit, horrific. Against the Vegas Raiders, to a certain extent, even worse.
Yeah.
So, look, it's been bad. Now, the Packers' defense has not been awful. I love what Kenny Clark is doing. Preston Smith played a solid game. The front line has been good. Jair Alexander's back. He's playing solid as well. Has been beaten up, sometimes here and there. But overall, it is not playing terrible. The Packers' defense has not been great. Don't get me wrong. But I'm a little more confident with this Packers defense to make it more of a game than I am with the Packers offense. Yeah. And look, Denver's awful. Denver's pathetic. But we know what Denver did versus Chicago.
Yes.
They were down 21 points, scored 24 unanswered to come back and win the game off a field goal. I'm not comparing my team to Chicago, but I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay has a lead, things trickle down towards the end, they start to blow it, the offense doesn't do well, they leave the defense out to dry, and then from there, somehow Denver kicks another game-winning field goal. I hope that's not the case, but I wouldn't be shocked if it happens. So I'm not saying Denver wins. I'm saying Green Bay wins the game, and I hope Green Bay wins the game. Because if we don't beat Denver, then that's a problem. But Jordan Love has to wake up, and Jordan Love just has to be more smart with the football. You got to know where your receivers are going. Yep. You got to have better connection. You got to have better, communication before the play. And if it's 3rd down and 10 again, inside the, red zone, inside Vegas territory, with 44 seconds to go, and you're down by 4 points in the game, do not throw the ball to Christian Watson going for a long touchdown pass in the end zone. Throw a slant to Watson, run the ball with Dillon, get the offense going, kill as much clock, but be smart with it. And then with 5, 10 seconds, whatever's left, punch it in with Dillon, score the rushing touchdown, give Vegas no room to breathe, or give Denver this time no room to breathe, and you win the game.
Yep, no, 100%.
I hope that happens, and I hope Green Bay wins, but I'm going with the Packers.
I'm going with the Packers as well. I've officially realized you can never bet on Denver. You could
Except
never.
when they're playing the Bears.
Yes, that is a different story. But yeah, I just overall, I mean, look, the Packers have not impressed me these last couple weeks at all. But
Who are you telling?
I think you guys are the significantly better team. You guys look elite compared to Denver, in my
I mean,
opinion.
look, come on, man. That's like comparing a rotten banana to a fresh banana. I mean, seriously, what are we talking about over here? I mean, look, anyone's better than Denver. Chicago was better than Denver, and they still lost.
Yeah.
So look, this Denver team is such an embarrassment. Sean Payton has tainted his whole career by going to Denver.
Yep.
Look, great coach with the Saints, won the Super Bowl. Drew Brees coached him, all that jazz. Competitive, solid years, multiple playoff runs, Super Bowl champion. Okay, fine, all that phenomenal. He could have just walked away, but
Yeah.
for some reason he wanted to still go. And now he goes to Denver. He plays with a washed-up Russell Wilson. He plays with a horribly managed front office. He plays with a horribly managed team. He is a bonehead coach making horrific decisions on the offense and the defense. And you allow 70 points to the Miami Dolphins, and you allow 2 running backs to score 4 touchdowns against you each.
Yep. Yeah.
Sean Payton, just go away, retire, forget this happened, check yourself into a home, and say goodnight.
Yeah, no, I just no
That's
faith in the Broncos.
That's
we
it.
we move in to what these are the final 2 games. We got the 8:20 on Sunday and the Monday Night Football. Another 2 amazing games, and this is so hard to think. We got Dolphins Eagles. What do you got Sunday Night Football?
All right, Jason, you're not playing a trick on me. That's going to be a really good game. Look.
Wait, I just said that's going to be a good game. I said that.
Yeah, I know, but usually you tell me these big games and they're crap shows. So
no, I wasn't setting you up.
Here. Okay, this is going to be a good game, and this one might be the hardest pick of the week because Philadelphia is bouncing off that tough loss to the Jets, but they're still 5-1.
Yep,
they're still solid. Jalen Hurts has been iffy, but AJ Brown's playing well. DeAndre Swift has been solid now. He's starting to get his rhythm going. And Philly's defense really is not that bad. They have a solid team all around. Hurts sure has been inconsistent, but they're still a pretty good team. Miami, on the other hand, whether it's Tua or the run game, the offense is great. Tyreek Hill, phenomenal. Tua looking really good. The run game, if the rookie is hurt, you bring in Mostert. Mostert's still very solid.
Yeah.
The defense for the Dolphins, though, kind of hit or miss, but still pretty solid the past couple of weeks. Yeah. This game is close. This game's going to be really, really tough to choose. But I'll be honest with you, Jason. I look at the Jets comeback. I look at the Philly meltdown. I look at Jalen Hurts starting to struggle, especially on the offense, where he's throwing 2 or 3 picks somewhat routinely in some of these games. And Tua Tagovailoa has been more consistent than Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
I put all those things together. I take all of it into consideration. And I also look at the, Dolphins offense as a whole with how good the run game is.
Yeah.
It's better than Philadelphia's.
Oh, 100%.
Now again, DeAndre Swift has been better. He's been great. But you take away DeAndre Swift and they've got nothing in that set of the offense.
Yep.
Whether it's that rookie or whether it's Raheem Mostert, the Dolphins run game is one of the best, if not the best in football.
100%.
And with that said, call me crazy, call me insane. Give me Miami.
All right, I'm gonna. Hey, look. If you're insane, so am I. I'm taking Miami in this game as well. Look, despite being 5-1, Jalen Hurts does not look amazing this year. He's not the Jalen Hurts we saw last year. Look, AJ Brown's been good. But they've been struggling to also get Devontae Smith involved recently. Yeah, that's been a big struggle for them recently. They have gotten Goddard involved more recently, which is something me and you talked about that they needed to do.
Right.
But not having Devontae Smith involved is a huge, huge loss for them. I believe they also suffered a major injury on their team last week. I forgot who it was, but it is a huge impact player that's now gone for a little while, I think. So, look, I genuinely just think that Dolphins team, you got Waddle, Tyreek, Mostert, just everything about that team is just so scary. They're a
Mm-hmm.
team that, like, if they really could be a 30-point every week game,
Well,
every
look,
single week.
look, Tua's been really good this year because Tua doesn't have to do it all. Now, Tua's great. He's phenomenal in his own right.
Mm,
But Tua, again, doesn't have to be the main contributor. He's
Yes.
got a lot of help, a lot of sidekicks with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the great run game, the phenomenal offense, all of that.
Yeah.
Tua doesn't have to be the main guy. Jalen Hurts doesn't have to be either. But Jalen Hurts plays a lot more of a role to this offense than Tua does to his.
Yes.
And if Jalen Hurts struggles, then the entire ship goes sinking with it. If Tua struggles, it's not great,
There's
but the
somebody
run
that could pick
game,
him up. Yes.
exactly. And that's where their run game really comes handy. So what's going to make or break this game is going to be the rushing attack by the Dolphins. And I think that's going to win them this game. But
Yeah.
on top of that, again, I look at the struggles from Jalen Hurts. And if that sinks into this game again, this Dolphins defense is going to have a fiesta on top of the great run game they've had all season long.
No, 100%. I completely agree. Look, and I'm not just saying this is Eagles hate or as a Giants fan. Like I said earlier, I'm just not impressed with Hurts right now. I really, I don't know. He kind of looks like he did in his rookie season, a little anxious out there, not
Yeah,
amazing. His
yeah.
runs don't look amazing either this year when he tries to run the ball. He's racking up the interceptions thrown actually as well, suddenly.
Yeah. He threw
So
three, and look, the Jets are a great defense.
yeah.
They really are. But 3 picks against any team, the Jets especially, you can't do that.
Yeah. No, you're not gonna win game. You're very rarely gonna win games throwing 3 picks.
Yeah.
Look, there's some opportunity, some small chance that maybe is in certain scenarios you could steal that game, but the odds of winning with 3 picks are slim to none.
Especially versus Miami.
No, 100% because they will come right down the field and score.
Absolutely.
All right, we move into Monday Night Football, and this is a game that you're probably gonna really love because you're gonna get to see the Vikings probably get destroyed if it's a healthy team. We got 49ers Vikings. What do you got, Alex?
All right, Jason. San Francisco lost, which all right, fine. McCaffrey hurt, not great. Take a step back, not great either. But
Debo
San Francisco will
Samuel
still
hurt
win.
too. Debo's hurt too.
Yeah, look, that loss to Cleveland was a big setback. I'm not going to deny that. And the injuries on top of it don't help. But Minnesota's horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why they have 2 wins is because they beat the Bears. Oh my goodness, they beat the Bears last week.
Yeah.
I am dying here like the Vikings season has been dead all season long. Minnesota has been so bad. Justin Jefferson still out. Addison played good versus Chicago, but against this 49ers defense,
Not
this
gonna
is
be
a whole
good.
different story. And look, Kirk Cousins, like I've said many times already, you're either going to get a 300-plus game, yardage-wise, or you're going to get 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and less than 200 yards, and still probably lose versus San Francisco.
Yes.
If he even gets 2 touchdowns. So you got to go with San Francisco. They're looking to bounce back. Injuries or not, they're going to be determined to get to 6-1, and a great way to have a guinea pig win against Minnesota. So you got to go with the Niners. And honestly, the reason why Kirk Cousins is still a Viking is because they beat the Bears last week.
Yes.
If they lost to Chicago, Kirk Cousins might be gone. But honestly, we're still coming close to that trade deadline, the middle of the season, all of that here
1 or
in
2
the
more
National Football
losses.
League.
Yeah.
They keep losing, and if they get crushed by San Francisco, even with their injuries, you could be saying so long to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. No. 100%. Look, I'm gonna go Niners in this one. Obviously, yeah, it'll be a little bit of a setback if, McCaffrey or Debo don't play. I do think they will, but you never know because with McCaffrey, it's an oblique injury.
Right.
So, look,
And,
I genuinely, you say what you said?
sorry. Yes.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. Even though with McCaffrey being hurt, they still got Kittle. They still
Yeah.
got Ayuk. Brock Purdy wasn't great, but Brock Purdy is going to bounce back no problem. He's still a solid, great quarterback. And honestly, Kyle Juszczyk, whether he's a fullback or a running back, he
Can
still does
fill
the
in.
job.
Yeah. No, he's a guy, and he's got a similar build to McCaffrey, and
Yeah.
he is a guy that could be, good out there if needed. But yeah, no, I don't think the Vikings stand a chance. And I will say this until the day comes where the guy proves me wrong. The Vikings have to be ruined the day where they freaking let Dalvin Cook go to make Madison the #1 back, because it has been an absolute disaster with Alexander Madison. It really has.
Well, look, that's a self-inflicted wound. The Minnesota Vikings made one of the dumbest offseason moves this past offseason. You let Dalvin Cook go, and then you say, you know what? We changed our mind. We'll actually try to try to bring you back 3 months after you released him.
Yes.
What is that
And look,
mindset?
it's not like Dalvin Cook's been great for the Jets, but it's because the Jets don't consider him a big piece. He's behind Breece Hall.
Yes,
He's not a big guy. If he was
right.
still in that Vikings team, I guarantee you he would look like Dalvin Cook as usual.
Well, I mean, because that was Dalvin Cook's offense. Seriously.
Yes.
Sure, Kirk Cousins was the head, and now Jefferson is there. But ever since Cook got there, that was his spot as the main running back.
Yeah.
And then you let him go, and then you say, oh, you know what? We actually want to bring you back later on after he's upset that you let him go, but we'll still pay you $7 million. But the Jets give him 8, and he'll take the 8, obviously, and go
because it's
somewhere
a
else.
slap in the face to just release a guy like that. It really
Right.
is.
So Minnesota put this on themselves. I'm not complaining, but they put this on themselves, and it's going to be even worse when they're going to have to trade Kirk Cousins. Whenever that happens.
No, 100%. And I do wonder, with the fear of moving Dalvin Cook, potentially eventually moving Kirk Cousins, does something eventually come up with a Jefferson situation too?
That's a good question that I don't think we're ready for, because let's say Cousins does move on, and keep in mind Jefferson's hurt right now. He'll be out till at least sometime in November. That's something that I think we won't have to worry about for maybe a couple seasons, because let's say during the offseason, or let's say they draft a new quarterback and he's good enough to play with Justin Jefferson, then this conversation doesn't happen.
Yes.
But if Minnesota has a bad year next year and maybe the year after, that's where we get into, does Justin Jefferson have a long-term position with the Vikings? Is it realistic to say that he's going to be a long-term Viking?
Yeah.
That's where that question seriously has to be answered. And that's where the doubts or, dismissal of that come along.
Yes, because if Cousins leaves there, the one thing that I think about is even if whether it's a rebuilding team or just a bad team, Jefferson is too good of a player to be on a bad or rebuilding team.
Oh yeah.
In a few years, that will be a waste of a career if he stays there and they're potentially rebuilding in a few years. It really would be.
And not even just Jefferson. I think they have to address questions of, does TJ Hawkinson stay along?
Yes.
Do some key, look, their defense is awful, but Harrison Smith, does he move on?
Yeah.
What do you do with some of your long-term or very good players that stand out for the franchise and stand out in general in the league? Do you trade them? Do you destroy and restart and rebuild?
Because
or
eventually,
do you give them a supporting cast?
Yes,
Who knows?
because eventually, depending on how the next couple of years go, look, you don't want to lose those guys, but eventually it's also about respecting their careers too. And you need to move them elsewhere, look, if they haven't done anything to the organization that, helped them, and, they've been good to the organization their entire time they've been there, you want to see those guys and elite players, have a good run somewhere. If eventually, a few years down the line, if this continues for Minnesota.
No, Jason, you're right on there. But again, this conversation doesn't happen until I would think at least after the 2024 campaign.
Yeah. No, I agree.
We'll see.
Yeah. But hey, look, it looks like some good games this week. There's also a couple really bad games. But there's some
Like
really
always.
yeah. No, but there's a couple really bad games like Bills Patriots and games like that. But for the most part it's a fun week 7. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited, especially for Sunday Night Football, the Chargers Chiefs. Uh, some of those games are gonna be really, really fun games. So we'll see what happens, and yeah, it's gonna be a good week of football. I hope you guys enjoyed our Week 7 NFL predictions, guys. As I've been saying, we're gonna continue to do this every single week. If you guys are new here, drop a sub, like the video, leave a comment with your guys' predictions for the week as well. I would love to hear what you guys think for some of these games. Um, Hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, we'll see you guys back here next week for the week 8 predictions. Peace out, YouTube.